He says, I stepped with the Prophet ﷺ for 10 years. And he said, Wallahi, he never said oof once to me. He never said oof. Like, what's going on? Why did you do that? Didn't I tell you? Where's it done? You know what I'm saying? Where's it Asa? You know what I'm saying? He said, you know, he talked to them like the Sheikh was saying. He talked to them. He understood that, you know, children would do certain things. He said, "Wallahi ma qali uf qat ever. ولا قال لشيء لما فعلت كذا وكذا. لما فعلت كذا or هلا فعلت كذا." Why didn't you, or why'd you do this, and why you didn't do this? Because he understood it was from the nature of the child to do certain things. He understood that was a thing. And the background of that story, as in Abu Dawood, in the Kitab al-Adab, the background of that story is that, you know, the Prophet sent him on a mission to do something very, you know, very detrimental, not detrimental, but very important. You know, go tell such and such to meet me at such and such time. Go tell Fulana to meet me at this time. And so it's like, okay, no problem. So on the way, he sees some guys playing ball. He's like, oh my goodness. They're like, hey, come on. And so he goes and, you know, he starts playing and time goes out. And so the Prophet comes by and he says, you know, he kind of smiles at the Anas and says, didn't I, you know, say such and such? And you know, did you go? And he said, why don't you go ahead and do it? He said he didn't get mad. He didn't get mad, he didn't get angry. He said, you know, didn't I say, you know, didn't I ask you for you to do such and such? He said, please go and do it. It's very important. Please go and do it. And this was the character of the Prophet ﷺ. You know, this is how he treated the youngsters. This is our role model for being a father. And lastly, and I don't want to, I know the time is up, the last category that I wanted to kind of pick out was the mercy of the Prophet ﷺ. And this is something that's tremendous. That you know, sometimes on a real level, it's hard to fathom sometimes. You know how, you know, just the level of the mercy that the Prophet ﷺ had for you know, the ummah in general and mankind in general. And specifically for his children. There was an incident where one of the Bedouins that newly came into Islam came to meet with the Prophet ﷺ on a waft. And he was he's from the center part of the Arabian Peninsula, I believe. And he was very rough and tough and like, ugh. And the Prophet ﷺ, he's meeting, this is like a delegation, he's the leader of his tribe. Excuse me. And so he came to meet with the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ is playing with one of his grandchildren, I think Hassan or Hussein. And, you know, he comes to meet, and he comes as like, you know, and so the Prophet ﷺ kisses his grandson, and holds him and brings him near, kisses him, and, you know, lets him go. And so this guy, this Sahabi, radiallahu anhu, he says, you know, Wallahi, I have 10 boys, 10 male children. He says, Wallahi, I have 10 male children, and I've never kissed one of them ever. Because for this is you know, he's from the desert. Very rough, very tough, and, you know, it's about, you know, living, being fierce, not showing any mercy whatsoever. And so he says, I have 10 boys, and I've never kissed one of them ever. And so the Prophet ﷺ says, you know, what am I supposed to do? If Allah takes the mercy from your heart. He says, Men la yarham, la yurham. And this is going back to our shepherd day. The Prophet ﷺ says that if you don't have any mercy, you will not be shown mercy. If you not show mercy, you will not be given mercy. Very clear. You know, I kind of put that in context. You know, down in Houston, I saw a bumper sticker that says, "Be nice to your children, because they'll pick your old folks home later in life." Right? There's a bumper sticker on one of these trucks, you know. But subhanAllah, that okay, the Prophet ﷺ, he has a meeting with someone important. You know, I wanted to meet with somebody. He still has time to be with his grandchildren, and shows mercy, and not afraid to show mercy in front of anybody. Not afraid to show kindness in front of anybody. This is what the Prophet ﷺ, you know, and one of his examples of mercy, and the last example that I found, it was subhanAllah, when the Prophet ﷺ, and this is really the epitome, if you can really just look at it. The Prophet ﷺ, he's in ihtidar, he's on his deathbed. He's on his deathbed, and you know, everybody knows, pretty much everybody's just waiting for him to die. He's in his last hours, his last days. He's sick. The effects of the sihr is coming to him, and it's getting really bad. As we look into the seerah, the Prophet ﷺ, he stops. He orders Aisha to tell her father to start leaving salah. He doesn't come to Salatul Jama'ah. It gets that bad. And from amongst, you know, and so people start to visit him. And from amongst the visitors is his daughter Fatima, radiallahu anha. And she's extremely distraught. She comes to his bedside and she's crying. You know, she's you know, I think in some narrations she goes crying, and you know, she's just extremely crying. Because her father, she knows it's inevitable, her father's going to, and she doesn't want it to happen. And so Fatima is crying, she turns away, he calls her back. He whispers something into her ear. And she turns away, and she's now happy. She turns away and she's now happy. Now, this is the most important man in history. He's about to die. Everyone knows him. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He's in the pains of death. And he has time to what? To express and show comfort to his grown daughter. Even on his deathbed, he did not give up. He's not giving up the status of father, showing mercy, giving comfort, where he can simply say, "Leave me alone, let me die. You can deal with it." That was not the character of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so we want to go back in closing. We'll go back to and what he said to before that, he said to Fatima, he said, "You will be the first to fall after," which comforted her, and you will be with me. And so that gave her some comfort. Now in closing, we want to go back to that definition of fatherhood. I didn't define it. But if we really want to look at it, especially define, especially after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that is to do all within your ability to provide, nurture, and raise your children. There's no limits for it, within the boundaries that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. And we really look at this example of the fatherhood of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was a man that was orphaned. He had, you know, his father died before he was born. His mother died when he was young. He grew up in the care of his grandfather, in the care of his uncle. And to be quite honest, it's not the same. They can, you know your grandfather loves you, but it's not like having your father there. You know that your uncle cares for you and takes care, but it's not like having your father there. It's not like when you come home from, your children come home from school, or you're about to leave to go for work or come home from work, and you don't have that daddy, baba to do. You don't have that. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He didn't have that. So it's not an excuse, brothers and sisters. It's not an excuse. It's not an excuse for us, to be bad parents in general, and bad fathers especially. And I'm taking that advice first and foremost. And subhanAllah, I know